Welcome to From the Porch. I'm Shannon Brockleback, and I am blessed to get to be here today with Priscilla from Jordan's Home Cooking. This is a restaurant that is over here in Hockley, and we will share the location if you haven't been blessed to come here yet and have some good food at lunch or breakfast, and I'll share the hours too. But I'm just always curious, how this came about, how you came to Waller.
The way that we say it now is it was divine intervention. So we've been out in Hockley and, different areas, but we hadn't been on this side. So for us, when we came out and we saw, let's get something to eat. So we stopped at Back Door and we had lunch. And then we were driving and, there's another back door, so we're trying to figure out what's going on. So my husband started asking questions and they're like, we built over there. We're going to be moving in a few months. And he's like, what are you going to do with this place? Just curiosity. It was pure curiosity at first is what I thought. Well, he turns around and, so we go and we meet Jim Ida, who's the owner. And so, we talked to him and he's like, oh yeah, we're interested. And I'm like, what? I wasn't quite ready to make that jump, but he did. And I'm glad he did because, here we are, it's almost a year later and I get to feed people. People get to eat my food. And one of the biggest things that I always say is I can't fix your problems. I can't take away your hurt, but I can feed you and I can listen. So that's our biggest thing, and when, again, coming out this way is there's not a big, huge variety of food. It's a lot of fast food, and you've got your pizza, your Philly cheesesteaks, and, Back Door does all that. We do more of the side of the home cooking where it's like you get the homemade scratch meals and, you sit down and sometimes when you're eating, the biggest compliment for me is, my grandma used to make this or my mom used to make this. And oh my God, it took me back to, and that's the biggest thing because food triggers a memory. Food triggers emotions. And that's kind of what we want to get back to. Because if you've ever been into our restaurant, you see we don't have TVs, we don't have any of that because when you went to mom and dad's or grandma and grandpa's when we were younger, there's no TVs. You sit at the table, you break bread, and you talk about your day. And that's kind of what we want to get back to. We want everybody to get back to who they were, who they are, get to know each other, talk to each other, bring the entire community together where, it's like, oh, hey, I know you from yada, 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 because there's no distractions.
Right.
And when people come, the first thing you'll notice when they come in is they're eating and it gets quiet. They're enjoying the food and then they're talking about the food and they're talking about different memories and what's going on at work. You don't see them on their phones, which is something that I do like.
Yes.
So,
And that is one of the things I loved about this place too, because kind of the purpose of my podcast was to actually connect the community. I feel like as we're growing, we're getting very disconnected.
I agree.
And we eat really fast, which was actually not good for you to eat stressed, you don't digest well. And so I'm very passionate about health. So it was just one of the things I do. I love that there's no TV so that it's not so loud. I mean, there's purposes for sports bars and watching TV, but I love just to come here and it be a lot more peaceful.
Yeah, it's more of, for us, it's a lot of people, I don't know so much about here because again, most people don't know. We're not from Waller. So for us, it's a little bit more difficult because we don't have that connection with, the community as far as, knowing where everything is, knowing who everybody is. But since we've been here, we've made quite a few connections, so like with the fire department, any leftovers that we do have, because I don't like food waste. I hate food waste. And my biggest thing was, are there any homeless shelters? Is there anybody that we can help? Well, there's nothing like that out here. So the next best thing was, we do have quite a few firefighters who come in and eat, and so we got to talking with one of them, and so that's what we do with our food. Every Thursday they come in, they'll pick up whatever we have left over from Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we feed them. Nice. So we do that. And the other place, it's just, that's where we're at right now because we're still trying to make different connections. I do use my hands a lot. Make different connections so that we're able to spread it out a little more evenly, if that makes any sense.
That's great.
And
I'm all about efficiency and not wasting.
Well,
and blessing others.
Yeah, too. And it's about it's community because the firefighters, one, they work really hard. And their wives, their wives are the ones that are cooking their meals, or, they're having to cook their own meals. This just makes it a little bit easier to where anybody, any one of them can go in and they can just heat up some food and they've got a good home cooked meal and they don't have to worry about, we're having pizza or we're going to have burgers again tonight or, who's cooking what. They don't have to worry about spending the money to go grocery shopping or stuff like that. So.
Right. That's great.
So we're trying to connect with the community. It's taken us some time because, like, again, we're not from here, so we don't really know everybody. But we do try to keep it as local. The coffee that we sell is from Station 21. So we do that, and then we have Granny Joe, who has her pickled okra and her pickles and apple butter and stuff that we're selling up there as well. So
Nice.
we're trying. We're getting there. It's slow, but we're getting there.
That's good. So how did you actually get started with cooking?
So I'm the baby of 10, and a lot of our food was really repetitive. So, and my mom, she was a good cook, but she didn't think outside the box because, growing up, she grew up in the era of the Depression and stuff like that. And so for them, it was, you make do with what you have. And flavor palette wasn't there. So as I got older and I started, tasting food, I'm like, oh, well, I like this. Let me learn to make it. And that's really how that started. I started learning to cook, and, I would cook for my dad, and I would cook for my mom and my siblings. And then, after that, it was, once I got married and started having children and stuff, and then, they eat differently. I had one son who decided he wanted to be a vegetarian, so I had to learn to cook that way. Then I had one that was a vegan, so I had to learn, okay, how do I do this? So that was the most difficult part of it. But then they all grew up and decided they like steak. So
That's good.
sorry, I'm sweating.
We're from the country. We like our steak.
Yeah. And
Yeah, so you do catering
yeah,
too.
so I did. We actually, the way that it actually started was catering. And let me go a little bit further back, because it started with, so every year on our holidays for family, it's, okay, what are we making this year? And Cliff started challenging me. Oh, let's do Thai, let's do Vietnamese, let's do Spanish, let's try this. Oh, okay. I took it as a challenge, and we did it. Well, then I like to bake as well, and I make cookies and candies and treat boxes and stuff. And so he used to work at HEB, and that would be the biggest thing. His gift to his employees would be a treat box, a homemade treat box, and they loved it. So it started that way. So then we started catering with the sweets, and then people realized, oh, she can cook. So then it started the catering. And so I was doing that for about 3.5 years while still holding a full-time job. Well, then I realized how miserable I was at my full-time job, even though it was great money. It was great money. It was a great job. I just wasn't happy. And when he said, quit and do catering full-time, okay, So I did. And then for 4.5 years I was catering, and then here we are. So
nice. And I actually personally had them cater something at my barn, and everybody was like, where is this pasta from? Where are these blondie, brownies from?
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like the variety of foods that we make. It goes from, I can do sandwiches, which is what we catered for you guys. We catered, we do different types of sandwiches. I can do American, Mexican, Latin. I mean, pretty much everything. I'm sure there's something somewhere that I wouldn't be able to do. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, and that's every bit of me goes into everything that I do. And that's what I always say. If I don't touch it, it's not going to taste good.
Right.
So
yeah. So our sandwiches are not just sandwiches. But we have cats in the barn, so we couldn't have a buffet. It was just not going to work. So
yeah, and that we do. We have our regular menu, and then we also have the lunch buffet Tuesday through Friday. We have our lunch buffet, so it's something different every day. And then on the weekends, we have a breakfast buffet as well, and then on Sunday, we go from breakfast to brunch. So there's a little bit of everything for somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. And don't miss a banana pudding.
Oh, yeah.
Today is chocolate banana pudding. I might have to come.
Yeah, that one's a little different. We're going to see how people react to that.
I think that's the only way you can make banana pudding better is add chocolate.
Yeah, I mean, I've had it. I like it, but not everybody has that. Because we're stuck in that banana pudding,
Right. Sometimes we like our traditions and we don't want to change.
True.
Especially if you're saying for holidays like Thanksgiving, we have to have certain foods.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Or it's just wrong. But I do have some friends that just do like Italian, that's their Thanksgiving. So
yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'm going to come try that. Well, and you say veteran owned, so Cliff, your husband.
Yeah, he was in the Marines. He I don't know how many years. I think he did 8 years, 8 or 9 years. You'd have to ask him. I'm really bad about that because, and his dad was in the Air Force as well. So, we're veteran owned and operated, obviously. So with him, that's a big part of us too, is like we want to give the veterans discounts, active military gets discounts, police, all first responders. If anybody needs anything, they know that they can, well, we would hope that they get to that point that they know that they can come to us, because it's like I said, if you don't have money, I'm going to feed you. Like, That's not.
It's nice.
Sorry.
Well, we appreciate your heart that you have
Sorry.
that to want to feed, because sometimes there is nothing
It's
you
hard.
can do when people are in pain, but we have to eat.
And then, sorry, that is the biggest thing for me. Is, you know, I've been there, done that, you know, going back to as a kid, because that's where it started, wanting to feed people was, you know, every few months we would go with our church before they banned it, where you could go out and you'd give clothing and food and you'd feed the homeless and do all that stuff. Well, you know, it's been banned. So, you know, you get a ticket for doing that now if you go downtown and you try to do that. When we were kids, you know, it hurt my heart. I'm a kid, I don't know, you know, I'm not understanding. I'm like, why are they not eating? Why, you know, how come nobody's helping them? I didn't know, you know, and then as I got older, I understood. So that's why I was like, you know, for me, when we came here and, you know, it was, is there anybody that we can help with our food? Food should never go to waste. Nobody should ever go hungry. So anybody who ever needs to eat, you're more than welcome. Just let us know. I'm so sorry.
Right.
I'm like legit crying.
No, we
Sorry.
appreciate and want to see your heart. So we thank you for sharing. So anyway, this is Shannon, and we're coming from the porch here at Jordan's Home Cooking. This is, you can actually, when you're wanting one of those places to sit outside and eat, you know, there's certain, maybe spring or fall, that we can actually do that, you know, you have the space here. So
Yep, for
thank
sure.
you, and please share with your friends and family and come out and try the buffet. It is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.